at the MICATA Annual Conference 2021. It's good to see everybody, even though we're online right now. It's a little different, but we're going to make it work. So I'm really excited to be introducing our first presenter today. Julie Cortés is an award-winning advertising and marketing copywriter who's run her own freelance business for more than 20 years. She founded the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City and created her own college-level course and teaches as an adjunct professor at the Casey Art Institute. And as I was just saying to Julie right before you guys joined, I think it's really important for us as translators and interpreters to look outside our own field and learn from people that work in adjacent industries to ours. So I'm really excited to hear what Julie has to say today. And yeah, let's get to learning.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. What? So we're going to keep this kind of casual. The reason I set this up as a Zoom meeting as opposed to a webinar is because I like audience participation. So heads up, you might be coming off mute here every so often. And thank you to those of you who have your video on so I can see your smiling faces and smiling back at me. So we're going to talk about how to rock your solo business. We are in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if you noticed that. And so many people, unfortunately, have been laid off, have been furloughed, and some people are turning to self-employment as a necessity. Now, you all may have already done it out of a desire, but all of a sudden the market is getting flooded by self-employed people. So whether you are here by choice or by default, you've taken the first step to get ahead by being here today. But some might say, all right, you want to run your own business in the middle of a pandemic. Are you crazy? Right? It's kind of a big deal. So even if your friends and family are thinking of that, I'm here to tell you that no, not necessarily you're crazy. You may actually be brilliant. And I'm going to tell you why. If we take a step back and look at where the workforce was heading, back in 2019, it was 30% of the workforce was self-employed in some capacity, whether it's part-time or full-time. This is anybody from an independent graphic designer or Uber driver or hairstylist, any of that. 30% of the US workforce was made up of freelancers, solopreneurs, part of the gig economy. In 2020, we were on track to hit 40% of the US workforce, which is a huge incline, right? And then all of a sudden COVID happened and everything shut down. And more people are coming out into the self-employment world. We were on track to hit over 50% of the US workforce by 2027. So it was like this steady incline. More and more people wanted to be self-employed, and why not? It's great. But at the same point in time, here comes COVID, and now even more people are in the gig economy now. And I think we're going to hit that 50% number a lot sooner than 2027. I'm going to reach and say it's going to be 2025 that we reach that. So because this is happening, it's really important to be best prepared for this changing workforce, for this changing lifestyle, by learning how to rock your solo business. Hi, I'm Julie Cortés, copywriter by day, freelance rockstar by night. I have run my own copywriting business for more than 20 years, writing advertising materials, whether it's websites, brochures, video scripts, you name it. I've probably had my hands on it at some point in time. I've worked for ad agencies, design shops, large corporations, small businesses, individuals such as yourself. It's been quite the trip. About 5 years into my solo career, I started looking around and I noticed this void for the self-employed. It was a void in education, a void in community, and a void in even respect. There was no respect for those of us who are self-employed. And apparently I kind of made it my life's personal mission to rectify that. In 2003, I started an organization, as Abigail said, called the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City. What it is all of the things that we were missing. It fulfills those voids with continuing education, community support, what have you. And it's just grown and grown to more than what I could ever imagine it could be. We'll talk a little bit about that later because it could certainly benefit you as well as a consumer. So apparently when you become a founder of some sort of organization, you become the go-to person in town for all things on that subject matter. And all of a sudden I started getting all of these requests to get interviewed on the radio, on podcasts, on, you know, on TV, magazines, newspaper, they're all coming to me. So I learned basically how to live and breathe all things freelancing. I was going around to the different universities and the different art schools giving a 1-hour presentation on freelancing, on what it means to be self-employed in the advertising and marketing community. And it finally dawned on me, and I was like, oh, Cortez, this needs to be taught in school. How many of us went to school for our craft, yet didn't take business classes because either they weren't required or we never thought in a million years we would ever need them? So many of us. So I ended up creating my own course, Freelancing 101. I got picked up by the Kansas City Art Institute, and I've been teaching there as an adjunct professor now for 5 years, and I absolutely love it. Then I had so many of my professional peers going, Julie, I love what you're doing. I want to come sit in on your class. I'm like, thanks, but you have to enroll and you have to go back to school. And nobody at this stage in life really wants to do that, right? So I'm like, okay, Cortez, light bulb moment. Why don't you open up a coaching arm to your business and offer that same training? So that's what I did. And then more opportunities came for coaching and teaching and speaking on public stages, both local, national, and international. And here I am. I went from being just a freelance copywriter to freelance rockstar. I had to rebrand to fit everything underneath that umbrella. So enough about me. I want to get started talking about you. So let's set the scene a little bit and talk about what it means to be a solopreneur. All right, what does it mean? I'm gonna make this audience participation. If somebody wants to come off mute, what does it mean to you to be self-employed? Anybody?
I do everything.
You do everything. Great. Very good. Anybody else got anything they want to add? What does it mean to be self-employed?
Running your own schedule.
Running your own schedule. Yeah, absolutely. So essentially being a solopreneur means being your own boss. You get to dictate so many different things, which is amazing. But a lot of people have different terminology for it, right? I call it freelancing because that's what it's called in my industry in advertising and marketing. But other people may say solopreneur. They may say, I'm a one-man shop, one-woman shop, what have you. There are probably 101 different names for what a solopreneur is, right? So take a look at this. Chime in if you've got any others that you wanted to add. My personal favorite on this one is creative mercenary. What is that?
That's great.
What does that even mean? So yeah, for the sake of this presentation, let's just all agree that it is what it is, that a solopreneur covers all of these different terms, okay? So we're gonna go there. Any terms you guys wanna add here? Anything? What do you all call yourselves if you're self-employed?
Independent contractor.
Independent contractor, good, absolutely. Well, I recently got into a debate with somebody in a Facebook group, a professional women's business group, and it was basically, are freelancers considered entrepreneurs? And of course I'm like, yes. And then here all these people are like, no. And I'm like, I don't understand. Well, freelancers aren't even business owners, they'd say. And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course we're business owners. And so and they don't know who I am. They don't know my background, right? And so of course I keep asking the hard questions, you know, please tell me what is different between a business owner and a freelancer? And they'd be like, oh, a business owner has to do all the things in their business. So do I. Right? Like they could not come up with a good excuse. And so I reached out to my favorite freelance attorney and I was like, Chris, please, please, please tell me, is a freelancer considered an entrepreneur or solopreneur in this case? And of course he's like, yes, absolutely. I'm going to read to you what he wrote back to me. He says, every freelancer is an entrepreneur. Every freelancer who sells a service or a good is a business owner. Solopreneur, freelancer, consultant, contractor, independent contractor, whatever you want to call them, they are all entrepreneurs and business owners. I was like, yes, perfect. That is the perfect write-up. And of course, I took that back to the group. And because my whole thing was like, is there something I don't know? Is there something I'm missing? Is everything that I eat, teach, and breathe and whatever, you know, in my presentations and my classes and my coaching, is that wrong? You know, and I really wanted some reassurance there. So no, it wasn't wrong. Those other people are wrong. But it's because that there's this negative connotation associated with the term freelancer, associated with being self-employed. All right. So we have to help elevate that image by being the best solopreneurs that we can, by rocking our businesses, knowing what we're doing and putting our best foot forward. We all have the same challenges. We all have the same opportunities. All right. And that said, we also have the same pros and cons. So if I were to ask you, what is the biggest pro of being self-employed? What would you say?
Boss.
Yes, you get to be your own boss. Absolutely. Well, we have an active crowd. Wyman, did you come off mute? Are you going to say something?
I don't know. Since I went from an employee to being a self-employed, I feel like I'm more in control in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways that I'm not in control, obviously, but instead of having a boss telling me I have to do this and I have to do it his or her way, now I can do it my way. So
perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
That's key for me. That took a lot of stress out of my life.
I bet. I bet. Well, so I think what I'm hearing in a nutshell, and I think we can all agree that one of the biggest pros here is your freedom, right? You get to work on what you want, with whom you want, when you want. You get to wear what you want. You get to do things the way that you want to. And it's freaking amazing, right? We love that aspect of being self-employed. What other pros might you come up with if thinking about being self-employed? Being a solopreneur.
You're more flexible. You're very flexible as far as your work is concerned.
Yes.
And the growth potential that you can have, and you can control your own business and decide on the direction and basically harvest all the profit.
Yes, absolutely. So you get to be your own boss, right? You get to set your own schedule. You have so much freedom here. And when I say you get to work with whomever you want, I'm not just talking about clients. I'm also talking about partners that you might team up with or vendors that you might use. You get to make all of those decisions. You get to choose the projects that you want to work on. You get to set your own policies and procedures. And all in all, you are in charge of your own success. So that's kind of intimidating, but it's also very motivating as well, right? Okay, now with every pro comes a con. So let's talk cons. What are some cons of being self-employed?
It requires
working too much
discipline.
Wait, one at a time. Okay, go ahead. Abigail? Did you
No,
say
go
something?
ahead. I'll pass on to Frida. I was just mainly going to say health insurance costs, but that's a whole nother side thing.
But that's definitely a con. Yes.
And it requires a lot of self-discipline. Nobody structures your day. It is you who does that.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody else?
Yes, it's working a lot. Like I have a hard time finding me time or just taking a break or a day off. So I'm really working on that because I'm starting to suffer from overexertion. So I'm like, I hate my boss. She sucks. She just wants me to work 7. You're never off. Like I really just the past 2 months started not turning on my phone on the weekends. I literally just have to turn it off. Yes. Otherwise, I'm on it. I'm working. I'm responding to emails, and it's a lot. It does take a lot of discipline, like you said, like self-discipline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there are cons that come with the territory, you know, as mentioned, you know, you are your own boss, which is good and bad, right? There's no guaranteed paycheck coming in. We go through this episodic income cycle. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's not, you know, it's feast or famine, right? This feast or famine, like roller coaster, if you will. That's what this hand motion is, feast or famine. Yeah, no benefits, no health insurance, no vision, no dental, no retirement savings. None of that comes with the package. You have to do more than what it is that is your craft. If you're an interpreter, let's say, you have to do more than that, right? You have to run your entire business. You manage the clients, you manage projects, manage budgets, manage deadlines. So much goes into it, and you've got to be self-disciplined. Also, it might take time to build clientele. You know, as soon as you hang out your shingle, you're not going to be super busy right away and raking in the dough. So there's definitely some cons, but in my opinion, of course, I've been doing this for more than 20 years, but in my opinion, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And there are ways to work around the cons as well. We'll talk about a little bit about those today. What I think some of our full-time counterparts don't realize when it comes to being a solopreneur is that we do more than our craft. I call this the O factor, because for them, they're kind of like, oh, you are the CEO, CFO, CMO, COO, and any other O you can think of your business. You have to wear all the hats. In my industry, it's a little bit more difficult because so many of us are creative types, and we think just with the right side of our brain. So having to do business in numbers, that's scary, right? It takes a lot of discipline. It takes great software tools. It takes outsourcing to help us with those things. But you have to know how to run a business. It is not just about doing your craft. You may be the best person in the world at your craft, but if you don't know how to run a business, you're not going to succeed, just plain and simple. So today, as promised, what we're going to talk about, we are going to start with some motivational tips. What better to start off a Friday morning, but with some motivational tips. We're going to go over some branding basics and some promotional tricks and a few more things that I have hidden up my sleeve here. So let's get started with the motivational aspect. All right. And what I want to ask you up front is, what is your why? Your why is a term that was coined by Simon Sinek. If you've ever heard of him, you can find him on YouTube. He's spoken at TEDx. He's the author of a book called Find Your Why. And essentially, it's a guide for discovering your purpose. And this is what drives us each and every day. He's put together this golden circle that essentially describes why you do what you do, what the purpose is, how you do what you do, and what do you do. All right, so let's talk about this. This is going to be our first exercise here for this workshop. So if you want to get out a pen and paper or a pencil, we're going to just make a few circles here with your why, how, and what. Make a golden circle. Okay. One is why, one is how, one is what. In this order, make sure why is in the center. Okay, now you want to take a few minutes to answer the following questions, starting with what and working your way to the why. All right, I'll put these in the chat so they're easy for you to grab. Let's see if I can get to the chat from where I am. Well, maybe I have to go here. Oh, I might have to stop sharing my screen. Oh, that's not a problem. I can do that really quick. There's the chat. If you all happen to be chatting and you have a question and I don't see it, please interrupt me and ask. Okay, so let's take a few minutes and answer these questions. Why is the purpose? So what is your cause? What do you believe? How is the process? Why are the specific actions taken to realize your why? And what is the result? What do you do? What is the result of why? But remember to work backwards. Start with the what, then do the how, then do the why. All right, so let's take a few minutes to work on that. Okay. Does anybody want to share what they've got going on in their golden circle?
I can start. So do you want me to start with why or what?
Start with your why.
My why is to help foster international communication on important environmental issues. So I'm a niche translator specializing in environmental issues and a copywriter. So the how is using my specialist expertise and strong writing skills. I wasn't sure if I got that right. And then my what is translation and copywriting services.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Anybody else want to share?
I can go if you want. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead. I can't see you, so go ahead.
Yes. I'm sorry. I just look like poo. I've been waking up at 5 a.m. all this for a conference, and I'm like, I don't think they want to look at my face right now.
I totally understand. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't really try hard for you guys. I apologize. All right. My what is conference interpreting. I'm a conference interpreter and federal court interpreter sometimes. And I also want to focus on interpreter training. And my ultimate dream goal is to work at the UN, even if it's just for 1 year. I just want the experience. The how, I got my MCI, my Master's in Conference Interpreting. Yes, I have been researching agencies. I signed up with a lot of agencies, and I started doing a lot of conferences online thanks to COVID. COVID has been nice to me, and I'm very grateful and humble, because before that, I was having a really hard time getting to conferences, because the minute people knew that I lived in North Carolina, they didn't want to fly me. It was much easier to get somebody from Washington, D.C. or, in place. So that was a frustration of mine that COVID actually fixed. The why, because I love being a conference interpreter. I love speaking other languages that I do. I love learning every day. I have so many wrinkles in my brain. It's awesome. I love traveling, meeting people, and I love eating and having a roof over my head and that of my kitties.
Perfect. I'm super inspired just listening to that. All right. So once you all have this, I'm sorry, did somebody else say something?
I just said thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you're welcome. So remember your why in everything that you do. Your why ought to light a fire underneath you each and every day. It ought to be the reason that you get up out of bed every morning and go to work. Okay. So it's important to remember your why every day when you're running your own business. Okay, now to build on top of that, I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks that I have learned over the years that really, really help when it comes to self-employment and being your own boss. So let's talk motivation here. And here's what I want you to do. Wake up, kick ass, and repeat. So much of getting ahead as a solopreneur has to do with mindset. So get yourself in the right mindset. One of my favorite tips that I've ever gotten, and this really has made a huge difference, is simply when you wake up in the morning, I want you to make your bed. Now, why might I suggest that? Any ideas?
It sets the tone for the day.
It sets the tone for the whole day, sure. You have already accomplished something by making your bed. Okay, so you can check that off your list. Additionally, if you're the type of person who likes to nap in the middle of the day, this will help prevent you from doing that. It tells your mind it's time to go to work. It tells your mind that I'm not going to be back in this bed until nighttime.
Well, wait a second. I became an entrepreneur so I could take a siesta. That's
right.
I couldn't do that at work, right?
I second that, and I do take naps, but on the couch. So
but on the couch.
No, but I know what you're saying.
I'm not here to nap shame anybody. I know we could use a nap every now and again, but think about, when you were working on site at an office building, when you were full-time, if and when you ever were, you had to go to work. Like, you didn't have a choice. You had to be there 8 to 5 or whatever your hours were, right? So if you tell your brain the same thing, it doesn't matter where you're located. If you're working from home or working from a co-working space or coffee shop, it's time to work. It's time to work. So make your bed. It's number one. Okay. Number two, I would say, is get dressed. Get ready for work. Take a shower, do your hair, do your makeup, put on shoes. Now, I know many of you might be looking at me like I'm freaking crazy, and that's okay because this works. For so many people, if you get up and again, act like you're going to work, act like you're going to a real job, you will be in a completely different mindset than if you just walk down the hall in your bunny slippers with your coffee and go to work. You're going to be lounging if you're in comfy clothes. All right. You may not be as nearly as productive if you are lounging around, if you're not showered yet, you know, you will be more productive. You may be sitting more upright if you're in work clothes. If somebody calls you on the phone, it's going to transfer over into your voice if you are in work mode or if you're in lounge mode. And another benefit of this is, let's say somebody wants to meet with you today and you're not ready yet. Let's see, it's about 9:30 here. Somebody wants to meet with you at 10. Do you have time to get ready? Do you have time, whether we're in person or a virtual world, depending on what's coming here in the future, right? Will you have time? I know I need like an hour to get ready, to be camera ready, or, you know, just for anybody to see me in public, right? So you always want to be ready for anything that may come your way. You know, I live so far south of town here in Kansas City that it takes me a good half hour to get downtown. So if somebody says, Julie, can you be here in half an hour? I could be like, yes, I can. Otherwise, I'd be like, no, I need an hour to shower and get ready. And then I need half an hour to get down there. I'm not going to be ready. Or, hey, Julie, can you hop on a Zoom call here at 10 o'clock? No, I can't, you know, or I have to have my video off, you know. For a client meeting, you want to be good to go. You want to be ready. Okay, so that's the added benefit of getting dressed every day for work. All right. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that I don't do it every single day, but try as I might, I really do. And something that really helps is I schedule meetings. You know, whether it's with clients or prospective clients or vendors or peers in the industry. So I force myself to get dressed, put on some makeup, and get ready for the day. All right. Number 3 would be to set office hours for yourself. Again, we're self-employed. You have that flexibility. You can make them whatever you want. Is it 8 to 5, 9 to 5, noon to 6? I don't care. Set your office hours, whatever works best for you, and stick to them. Even if you don't have paid work coming in the door right then and there are still so many things that you could be doing to work on your business. Is it new business development? Is it self-promotion? Is it tidying up your office? There's so many things that you could be doing. So you want to make sure you're either working on your business or in your business. In your business is doing the actual paid work. Working on your business is doing everything else that comes with the territory. All right. Maybe you do some social media scheduling. Maybe you update your website. Maybe you send out an email, right? There's so many different things that you can be doing. So set office hours for yourself and stick to them every single day. All right. The next tip I have for you is to get out of your house at least once a day. At least once a day. You know, I know it's a little difficult right now in COVID times, so we're not exactly meeting up with people like we used to. You can still get out of the house and go take your dog for a walk, or you yourself go for a walk. Take yourself for a walk around the block. You could, as simply as go to the post office, run an errand, go to Staples, you know, go somewhere, interact with other human beings. It's so good to prevent that isolation factor from really seeping in. All right. Plus, you get a little bit of vitamin D in the process, right? That's an instant mood booster. Okay. So get out of the house once a day. Remember, when you go and make your bed, you get dressed for the day, you set your office hours. So you get into your office at the time that you assign for yourself, right? And get out of your house once a day. Remember these tips and use these. They're just like mindset tricks, right? Use these tricks to get ahead. Okay, now that you're motivated, it's time for everybody to get trained here. Working for yourself isn't necessarily for everyone. I'll be the first to admit that I never thought it would be for me. I was one of those who had lost my job and couldn't find another one. And I was like, oh, all I want to do is sit on the couch and watch TV all day, right? No.
¿Y qué le pasó a usted cuando estuvo en el militar, señor? ¿Lo lastimaron? ¿Lo lesionaron? ¿Qué
Hey,
pasó?
Gabby, can we mute you? Thank you. Okay. So anyway, back to my training thing. So we've got to get you motivated. We've got to get you trained. Now I have this 3-part training system that I use to set yourself up for the best chance of success. You train yourself, then you train your clients. And here's something that people don't think about, but it has a huge role in all of this, is then you train your family and friends. Okay. So let's start first with you training yourself. Whoops, I went one too far. Okay, train yourself. Okay, we talked about those office hours. You want to keep those office hours 100%. Also, listen to your body. Know when you are the most productive. Are you a morning person? Then schedule your most important tasks for the morning. Do you get a fire lit underneath you late in the afternoon? Great. Put your more tasking items then. Listen to your body and schedule your days accordingly. Okay, that's number 1 for train yourself. Number 2 is to have some sort of dedicated workspace. Yes, we work from home, which means we have the flexibility to pick up a laptop and move, if you have a laptop, and move from room to room. You could be at the kitchen table, you could be at the couch, you could work from bed. Yes, you could do all of those things, but I do not recommend them, because you get into this mindset of going to work. If you have dedicated office space, if you have a spare bedroom or a basement or someplace where you can set up shop, where you have everything that you need at your disposal. Again, it's a mindset trick. Have this dedicated workspace. It will help you sit upright as well. Maybe you won't hurt your back, if you're lounging on your bed or on a couch or chair. Okay, so that's a good proponent as well. Okay, next, I want you all to minimize distractions. I don't know about you, but I am easily distracted. If I get a social media notification, it's like, oh, what's that shiny thing, right? Well, but it takes us 15 minutes to get back into focus. All right, so you want to minimize as many distractions as you possibly can. Social media, turn it off, right? Turn off the notifications, or don't even have the tabs open on your computer screen. There are software tools or apps out there that you can use that will automatically shut those off for you during your office hours. It's kind of cool. So maybe you only check 3 times a day. Maybe it's before work, at lunch, and then after work, right? But try, as you might, not to check them during the day unless there's something super important or urgent going on.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you manage, or maybe you'll touch on this, how do you manage email? Because I'm constantly distracted by email. Sometimes I never get a project done because the problem is a lot of us have clients that demand immediate response, and I haven't figured out how to ignore email.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's tough. It's not only a distraction, but you feel like you have to be present, right? And ready to respond right away. Now, you say your clients demand a response right away. To you, is it urgent, or is it something that can wait?
you mean for me?
Yeah, when you're saying that your clients demand you to be responsive.
Well, what I mean by that is a lot of times if I'm getting a request for an interpreting job, they need to get a reply ASAP or within 2 hours maybe, or some translation clients, or maybe in Europe, and the time zone difference too is, but my point is I find that I'm always fighting that battle against my email.
Sure. Okay, so maybe you check your email at certain intervals throughout the day. Maybe you put it at 2-hour chunks. Every 2 hours, you're going to address your email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but again, I feel like it's very similar to social media. Like you go and you get distracted by that email, and then look, now it's going to take 15 minutes for you to regain your focus on whatever it was you were working on, right? So if 2 hours is acceptable to reply, perfect. Then set that in your schedule. Okay, I'm going to check at 9, 11, 1, 3, and 5, right?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So try that and see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Didn't know if you had any other tricks.
It's a matter of training yourself and training your clients. If you can
Right.
train them to understand, if it's somebody you've worked with before, then maybe they'll understand that you can't always respond to them right away. I
Yeah.
mean, what if you're in a workshop, right?
Yeah.
If you're presenting, my phone is going off the hook right now. I'm totally ignoring everything.
Yeah. And they all understand that. But my point is I don't think I could ever shut email off for a day, say.
Yeah. No, I don't recommend that.
Yeah. So, but it's hard to train yourself, like to say, okay, I guess maybe the solution is closing Outlook, just not even having it on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then saying every hour, I'm going to check it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'll be a solution.
Yeah, and give yourself a time limit too. Like, I'm only going to address email for 10 or 15 minutes. And that's right. And set a timer. Totally set a time. I'm old school. I have a timer right here that I use. I don't even use my phone. I have that old school timer. Absolutely.
Can I chime in with a suggestion as well?
Sure, go for it.
One thing that I do is for like my clients that I know are going to come in, or your regular clients, you can set them up as like favorites on your phone, and so they're filtered into a completely different inbox. And so if I want to just get rid of all of the usual junk things that are coming in that don't demand my attention immediately, I just keep an eye on my favorites, and everything else just go to. So technology can sometimes be a friend too.
Yes, great suggestion. Great. So there are so many things that can distract us, right? Social media, email, calls, even texts, right? There's so many things. So you've got to train yourself to try and ignore these things until the select time, the scheduled time to address them. All right. Unless there's something going on. If you know that, there's some client fire that has to be put out, then that's a different story. But for the most part, most days, it's not like that. So we're also talking about, you've got other distractions around you, whether it's a roommate, a partner, a spouse, kids, pets, right? All of these things can be distracting. So you've got to find a way to, I don't want to say ignore them, but you train yourself, you know what, hey, my best friend just texted me. I'm sure it's nothing important. I'll get back to her during my lunch break, right? Like, you don't have to do it right that minute. Now, I know kids and pets are kind of a different story, but try as you might to get into this mindset that you're at work. And it would be no different if you were working in an office building with 40 other people, right? So you wouldn't have those distractions if that was the case. So try and close a door, whatever the case may be. When we work from home, there are certainly other things that might call your attention as well, such as just simple chores around the house, running errands, right? I had a spouse. This is my ex-husband. This is the Cortez from many, many years ago, my starter marriage. But he did not understand self-employment. He went off to work every day, and he would come home and he'd be like, well, why didn't you clean? Why didn't you cook? Why didn't you go to the grocery store? Why didn't you do all these things? And I'm like, because I was working. He did not understand it. And so fortunately, I got to the point where I was like, okay, listen, hun, I love you. I know that these things need to get done, but can they get done at a different time? Can they get done in the evenings and on the weekends, right? When I'm not working, I have to train myself to be in my office from 9 to 5. Okay. There may be other things that distract you, TV, video games, Netflix, whatever your jam is. Again, tell yourself, yes, you can enjoy those rewards if you get through a full day's work. Again, if there's nothing going on, it doesn't matter. If there's no paid work coming in the door, it doesn't matter. You always want to be working on your business. There's always something to be done. And if you can't think of anything, let me know. I will come up with a list of 10 different things you could be doing. Okay. It's really important to maintain work-life balance, and especially when you work from home, because it's so easy for them to just kind of intermingle. You may think, oh, my laptop's right there. Let me go crank out that project and get that done in the evenings or on a weekend or over a holiday. But it's essential that you make that separation specifically for yourself to maintain sanity, to maintain balance. You need to allow for breaks. You need to allow for vacations. You don't want to get burnt out. Now, I know it's difficult when we go on vacation. I mean, how many people take their laptops with them just in case the client might need something? I'm guilty just as well. But what I try and do is I leave my laptop in the hotel room and go and do my thing during the day, but I have it to check in if I need to. right? If you can fully step away for a week or whatever it is, how long you're going to be gone, I recommend doing that. Okay, you need to have those mental breaks. A lot of times people fail at self-employment because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're doing, right? Many of us, like I said, went to school to learn our craft, but don't know necessarily how to run a business. We don't know the business strategies, the business tools. We don't know anything about taxes, right? But you can go learn it. There's so much great information out there that I highly recommend you figure out what you don't know and then go educate yourself on it. Educate yourself on business practices, on industry standards, on legal rights, anything and everything that you could possibly need to run your business. And you won't ever know absolutely everything. It's a continual learning process. And of course, things change throughout the years, right? Social media changes every year, if not every other month, it seems like. Tax laws change every year. So you've got to be a student of learning how to run a business constantly. Okay. So that is training yourself. Any questions or comments on that before we move on? No? Okay. So next in the 3-part training process is, of course, to train your clients. Remember those office hours that you set for yourself before? Let your clients know what those hours are, so they know when they can contact you and potentially get a response. They know when they can schedule meetings for. They know when they can expect you to work. Okay, you've got to set those boundaries up front. All right, you don't want a client saying, hey, I'm going to call you on Saturday and I want you to work on this over the weekend. I want you to take out time from your personal life and work on this. Now, that does happen every once in a while. I understand that, but there's something you can do to be proactive about it. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but certainly you can charge rush fees for something like that. If any client is imposing on your personal time outside of your office hours, you can charge extra for it, and that's totally okay. Speaking of payments, you get to set your payment terms, not the client. You get to dictate how your business operates. So I don't know about in your world, but in my world, I think it's pretty standard that invoices are due within 30 days. Okay, 30 days. Some people have 15, some people have 45, but 30 is pretty much the average. Okay, don't let your clients tell you, oh no, sorry, we're not going to pay you until 60 days out or whatever. They don't get to make those rules. You make the rules. I don't care if you're self-employed. You still are a respected vendor and should be treated as such. I'll tell you one story happened to me just a couple of years ago. There's a large ad agency in town, really well known. And I hadn't worked with them in probably 15 years because when I did, I had been working on this project. We didn't get very far into it when the client ended up killing the project, right? It just got swept away. Okay, fine. Well, I still need to be paid for my time. And so I went ahead and I sent my bill and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I'm not getting paid. 1 month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by. I'm like, hello, it wasn't that much money, y'all. I think it was like $125. That's it. And you're here telling me this big ad agency doesn't have $125 sitting around to pay me? Yeah, they do. So I was doing everything that I was taught. I'm sending my late notices. I'm attaching a late fee and nobody's even responding to me. And I was like, hello, I'd like to get paid. I'm right here. You know, I'm self-employed. I need that money. I know it's not a lot to you, but I have bills to pay. So nobody's responding to me. So I ended up having to go to the accounting department and I got paid through them. But what I learned is that they have this policy that they don't pay their contractors, their independent contractors, until they get paid from their clients. Well, that's not fair. We are not financial lending institutions at all, at all. So they came to me a couple of years ago, and I remember I hadn't worked with them in 15 years. And they came to me and they're like, Julie, we have this project. You're perfect for it. We want to pull you in on it. I said, great. Okay, here's how much I think it's going to cost. I send over my estimate and they write back in an email, okay, this looks good. Now, my first red flag was, wait a second, they didn't sign my estimate. What's going on? Okay, at least I have it in writing that they approved the estimate in my email. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue my process and send over a contract and ask for a deposit. And this gal, I think she was young. This gal comes back to me and she's like, oh no, we don't sign freelancer contracts and we don't pay freelancer deposits. Is that okay? And of course I'm like, no. She's like, well, we have a contract that we ask our contractors to sign. Will you sign that? And I said, I'm not answering that question until I take a look at your contract. Remember, I've been burned from them before. So my eyebrows are totally raised at this point. And so she sends over this contract. It's 6 pages long. It's pretty traditional stuff. Who owns the work, non-compete, non-disclosure. Okay, I get all that. But then there's one line in there, one line that's like kind of hidden in there. And essentially it says, we, the ad agency, won't pay you, the contractor, until 30 days after we get paid by our client. And I'm like, that's not happening. What happens if you don't get paid for 6 months? I have to wait 7 months to get paid? No. And what happens if your client never pays? Does that mean I never get paid? I'm not going to take on that risk. So of course I sent it over to my attorney and I was like, am I wrong to think that this is a huge red flag? He's like, oh no, you're absolutely right. He's like, please, please, please do not sign that as is. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do here? He's like, okay, you go back to them and say, this contract looks fine. As part of my negotiations, however, I'd like to change out this one line that states that you're going to pay me 30 days after you get paid by your client, that states instead that you're going to get paid within 30 days of them receiving your invoice. I'm like, oh, okay, that's easy enough. So I sent that back to him, and the gal who was helping me was like, oh, sure, no problem. No problem. Well, why do you have that in your contract to begin with? Why are you trying to take advantage of independent contractors so you can earn interest on that money? Like, what's going on? Again, I'm not charging tens of thousands of dollars for my invoices at all. There's no reason why they can't pay me within my 30-day timeline. That is not unacceptable. Or it is unacceptable that if they don't do that. So unfortunately, when you're self-employed, some clients will try to take advantage of you, and it's your job not to let them, right? To be proactive, to learn how to protect yourself ahead of time, such as with a contract, right? Think about too, like when you set your office hours, and if somebody wants to, like we talked about, somebody wants to demand your time after those hours. I had a client once who had me set up to do a project. They were supposed to be giving a presentation like in 2 weeks, and they wanted me to write the presentation for them. I said, great, get me the information, and I'm happy to put that together in a PowerPoint or whatever it was at the time. That'd be great. And here we go. And days are going by and days are going by. And I'm like, well, I guess they're not doing this project because I'm not getting the information that I need. And I'm checking in on them, not hearing anything, or I'm getting the, yeah, we'll get that to you for sure. Y'all, I kid you not. The night before they were supposed to give the presentation is when they sent over the information. The night before, I had already had 2 weeks to work on this project. The night before, I get an email. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening. It's already after hours. And they're like, okay, here it is. And I'm like, oh, you're kidding me, right? And I'm like, you want me to drop what I'm doing, burn the midnight oil and work on this project for you? And I was like, I'm happy to do that. I know you're in a crunch here, but at the same point in time, I'm going to have to charge rush fees, which in my world, it's time and a half is what I'm charging. Oh, they didn't like that. And I'm like, well, I don't like you giving this to me at the last minute and not even giving me any working hours, time to work on this. And we kind of got into it on that. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's very disrespectful. And what I didn't tell you guys is it was also a holiday. I was spending the evening with my extended family, right? And they wanted me to completely cut out of that and go cater to them. No, that's not the way it works. Okay. So just because you work for yourself does not mean that you're available 24/7. Train yourself that idea, that concept first. Get comfortable with saying no. Get comfortable for setting boundaries, putting boundaries in place. Okay. You have to establish clear expectations when it comes to deadlines, responses, revisions, whatever the case may be. Discuss things in advance, like what happens if a client doesn't pay on time or doesn't pay in full, All right. Have these all set out. We'll talk about setting some policies here in a bit, but think about all of those things that will help make your life easier. Okay. So train yourself, train your clients. Number 3, y'all remember? Train your family and friends. Again, your kids, your spouse, your partner, your roommates, other extended family or friends. Ask these people to respect who you are and what you do. For example, my mom likes to call any time of the day, and she just wants to chat about anything and everything. It's like a Seinfeld episode, you know, their shows about nothing. She just wants to call and talk about nothing. Every once in a while, it's something important, but usually it's not. I think she's just lonely or bored. I don't know. So she calls me. I'm like, Mom, I'm working. I can't just sit here and chit chat with you for 30 minutes in the middle of a workday. So I've had to train her not to call me. You have to ask these people to leave you alone. Don't, like, if your spouse, like my ex-husband, you know, expecting me to get the chores done. No, I had to train him. That's not going to happen during working hours because I have work to do and I need to focus on my business or the errands to get run, whatever the case may be. Now, if other people are in your home while you're working, you may consider closing your door and using that as a sign for them to not come in and interrupt you during the day. So my husband and I both currently work from home, and we know if one of us has the door closed, because we have separate offices, if one of us has the door closed, that means do not disturb, period. You may even put a little Post-it note on your door or get one of those do not disturb, you know, signs that goes around the doorknob. That could be fun. That could help, right? Help get the message across. Don't bother mommy right now. She's busy, right? Now, I know if you have little ones, that's a little bit more difficult, but the older ones should totally be able to understand and respect that, unless there's an emergency, of course, right? But don't answer calls, don't respond to texts or social media messages unless they're urgent, right? Train yourself first, then you train your family and friends. So now if my mom calls in the middle of the day and it's not before or after work or during my lunch hour, she knows I'm not going to answer it. And she better leave me a message, and because otherwise I'm going to think it's an emergency or something. This is the same thing with your friends. You know, if friends want you to have like what I like to call play dates, even though we're adults now, right? Play dates or go to a movie, go to a happy hour. You know, like I have friends who will be like, hey, Julie, it's beautiful out. It's so sunny out. Let's go grab a margarita on a patio somewhere. We're freelancers. We can totally do this. Yeah, we are, and we can. And man, does that sound amazing right about now. But you know what? I have office hours and my boss is kind of a, whatever 5-letter word you want to put in there. I can't do that. Can I meet you after 5? So I train myself first to say no, but then I come up with a happy win-win. I'm still going to meet with them, but it's going to be after 5 o'clock. Yes, I would love to go to a movie with you. Can we do it after 5? Train yourself first and then train your family and friends. Get yourself in the right mindset, and that's how you're going to propel your business forward. You have to train people how to treat you. I told you about my mom. Let me tell you the story that happened. This was several years ago before I got remarried to my now husband. And I was in an apartment, right? And this was long before, what am I talking about? Long before people just had cell phones. We had both cell phones and landlines at the time. And she called my home office number. We did have caller ID. So she calls my home office number, and of course I'm not answering it, and she doesn't leave a message. Well, then she immediately calls my cell phone and doesn't leave a message. And of course I'm like, well, that's weird. Well, always leaves a message. She calls again my home office phone and doesn't leave a message. And again, my cell phone and doesn't leave a message. What do you think I'm thinking at this point? This is all happening with like a 2-minute time period. What do you think I'm thinking? Audience participation.
Nothing
Emergency.
good.
Urgent, yeah.
Yeah, it's an emergency. Something's going on. I'm like, oh my gosh, God forbid something happened to my dad or something, right? So of course I call my mom back right away. Mom, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, everything's fine. What are you doing? I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm working. She's like, well, what are you doing? I'm working. She's like, well, drop what you're doing. Why, Mom? Why do I have to drop what I'm doing? Because there's a meat sale at Price Chopper. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? You called me 4 different times, interrupted me 4 times, couldn't tell me that on a message. because I have to drop what I'm doing right now and go run out to the local grocery store to get meat. Really? Come on, you're killing me, right? I love my mom dearly, don't get me wrong, but that was just insane. So we had to have a little chat. Mom now only calls me during the day, during lunch hour. Half the time I'm busy and I can't answer it anyway, but she also knows now too to leave a message, especially if it's not an emergency. Okay, but see how I had to train her. You are not going to take my focus away from my business for something as silly as a meat sale. I get it. It may be important to her. It's not to me. And especially not during the workday, right? I can go get meat later. It doesn't have to be right this minute. Okay. So do y'all understand? You've got to train people. You got to train yourself. You've got to train your clients, and you've got to train your family and friends. No two ways about it. That's going to help set you up for success. Okay. Any comments or questions before we move on? Anything? Okay. So I mentioned policies before. Let's dive into that. Ooh, policies and procedures. This is super important. You may have policies.
Hey, Julie,
already.
before you get too far, I just saw in the chat we have a question.
Oh yeah, thank you. What is, can you read it? I can't get there unless I unshare.
That's okay. I think it was Huda wanted to ask something. Or do you want to post it in the chat? No, okay, I'll read it out to you.
Okay.
A lot of people think that since you are a freelancer, you are free all the time, which is quite the opposite. It is very annoying. Okay, Huda, what else would you like to ask? I think you said you had a question.
Can I speak, or do you want me to write?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so what you talked about earlier, and I'm not sure if you're going to touch upon it, and if you are, just let me know. I'll gladly wait. But you were talking about the clients that don't pay for 6 months to a year. It has happened to me way too much. And I do agreements, actually. I send agreements, they sign them, and still they do whatever the heck they want, especially, and I don't know if people here who are interpreters can relate, the courts do not care. They have their own system. They do not respect the 30 days. They really don't. And they also tell me what they think I should charge. I don't appreciate that. I'm not selling potatoes. This is my fee. You like it or you don't, go with somebody else. But I literally just said no yesterday to 2 people because they like to take 6 months to a year because the court has to do whatever it is they need to do to pay me. And I said, good luck finding a French interpreter last minute. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I now have a blacklist, which is ridiculous, but I have a blacklist of people I refuse to work with. Mm-hmm. How do you force the courts to respect the law, like the agreements?
That's a good question. I love that you have a blacklist because I do too. I totally do too. I have different file folders like in my filing cabinet. They're broken up by sections. And I mean, there's not a lot, but there's just a handful. It's like, don't work for ever again, is what they're labeled, really, because they were such pain in the ass clients. I haven't really worked with the court system in that regard. So that's an excellent question. All I can say is that you get to set the policies for your own business. I don't think 6 months to 12 months for payment is any sort of respectful at all. I think a 30-day turnaround is totally standard in any industry. And I don't know. I mean, that's a really tough question. I would like to ask a lawyer if somebody, what their opinion is and if they have any suggestions, because I've only had to go to court once and it was small claims court. And that's a whole nother story for itself, but I didn't have to deal with what you were dealing. My client had filed bankruptcy, so it was different. But yeah, keep up the blacklist. And I'll tell you what, if you've got a community like this where you have other people in town who do the same thing that you do, you can always warn them, right? You can't put out on a billboard, and badmouth them. You can't do that, but you can have a verbal conversation with somebody and just kind of warn them. And I feel like the more that freelancers and solopreneurs know this and they abide by these same policies, we all have to get together, right? We all have to have similar standard policies. I think more and more clients will probably start getting on board. Oh, everybody does this. I can't get away with doing this anymore. That's my hope anyway. You know, that just like you said, I'm not going to take it. What's that old Twisted Sister song? We're not going to take it, right? I'm not going to take it. I have the right to say no. I'm not going to let you take advantage of me just because I'm self-employed. So there's plenty of work out there, and hopefully you can just find it. And because there's going to be better clients out there who respect you in that regard.
Can I chime in? Yeah. I don't, in my few years of experience, I figured out that you have to prove your worth, and you have to be patient, and it's tough when you're trying to pay the bills. But I've learned to say no. But the problem is with my particular language pair is Spanish, English, and in interpreting especially, and also translation. The world is so saturated with people, with freelancers. And the problem with a lot of big agencies that contract our services is, if I say no, they'll move on to somebody who will work for pennies and who will accept a 60 or 90-day payment. And it's tough to turn down work. And then therefore we freelancers feel kind of bullied. And then all of a sudden they're treating us more like employees. Like you said, they're saying, this is how much we're going to pay you, and if you don't accept this, then we'll move on to another interpreter. And it's tough. But the more I say no, and the more I prove my worth, the more agencies and clients say, we don't care how much you charge, we want you.
Yeah.
And that feels really good, but it's really tough to do that, to turn down jobs.
It is, especially when you're starting out, or if you're struggling. Absolutely. And I get that. You know, there's no shame in taking a part-time job to supplement your income, if that helps, you know, especially if you can find something in your field, even better. But having that stability is really helpful, especially, you know, so you can pick and choose which clients you want to work with. But you hit the nail on the head. You know, we're competing now with freelancers on Fiverr and Upwork and some of these other job platforms where, you know, they're coming in from overseas and they're charging like $8 an hour. I can't charge $8 an hour. I can't afford that, nor do I want to, because I feel like it completely devalues my profession, right? And I don't want to do, I know my worth. I know what my work is worth. I know it's not just about the time that I spend on a project, but my years of experience, my talent level, you know, the skill level, you know, all the experience lumped into one, and what the results are going to be in the end, right? So yeah, great point. Know your worth, and be prepared to say no if you can. Okay, absolutely. And again, the more people that we can get on board with this concept of you're not going to take advantage of us, I think the better off we'll be. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about policies and procedures for your business, because you want to think of like different scenarios like we were just talking about, and how you're going to handle them going forward. So you want to set up processes and procedures, for example, like what happens if you're onboarding a brand new client? What does that look like? Do you first have a discovery call or an in-person meeting in non-pandemic times? Do you put together an estimate? Then do you send them a contract? Do you ask for a deposit up front? What does that process look like? All right. If and when you land that new client, then what? Do you set up a new folder on your desktop? Do you do a physical folder for your filing cabinet? Do you assign a job number? Do you add it to project tracking software or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever you use to keep track of things? Or maybe it's a Post-it note, whatever. Okay, what does that process look like? Think these things through from beginning to end. What do your payment policies look like? Do you ask for a deposit up front? I recommend you do. Do you do milestone billing? A third up front, a third in the middle, a third when it's complete? You can do that, that's acceptable. Or do you just bill once when the project is complete? That's okay too. But what is your personal policy? You get to make those. Remember that? You make those policies, not your client. Now, I will say every situation is different and not all clients are equal. So if I'm working with a startup company, for example, you better believe I am asking for a deposit up front and I'm going to demand that. And if they say no, then that's a huge red flag that they don't have any money or they have money problems and they're going to be a problem getting paid in the end. If it is a huge corporation that I'm working with, or even locally, right? We've got Hallmark, H&R Block, those kind of companies, and they say, sorry, we can't sign your contract and we can't give a deposit, but we promise you we'll not only pay within 30 days, we'll pay within 15. Well, that's okay. I've learned throughout my years of experience that large corporations can generally be trusted, but not necessarily the small mom and pop shops or the startups. Okay. That's why we have policies in place, and, you know, rules are meant to be broken. So you just kind of, yes, I have a policy that everybody must sign my estimate, must sign my contract, must give a deposit, but I offer a little wiggle room just in case something comes up that I have no control over. Okay. But trust your gut. If it feels wrong, it probably is, and you'll want to walk away. So determine what your payment terms are. Is it the standard 30 days? Is it 15 days? Is it 45 days? You may even offer an incentive for them to pay early. Hey, if you pay within 10 business days, I'll give you 10% off. What is it that you offer? What is it that you do for your payment terms? Okay. Now let's talk policies. Think about if a client or a prospective client does any of the following things. What if they don't sign your estimate or your contract? Is that a hard line? Is that something that you'll say, well, no, sorry, I can't work with you unless you do that? Or do you have some wiggle room on that? What if a client won't pay a deposit up front? You might even consider in that particular situation, you may ask why. Why won't you pay up front? If they say anything that gives you the idea that they don't respect freelancers or they don't respect the self-employed, you have your answer. And then you have to make the decision of whether you want to continue working with them or not, right? Okay. But if they say something as simple as, you know, well, it takes, you know, at least 15 days for us to get a check cut around here, it's just part of the processes of the accounting department, that's a little bit more understandable. Okay. What happens if they don't get you all the necessary information that you need or materials you need in time for you to meet the deadline? Remember my story that I just shared? What happens? Do you charge a rush fee if you agree to do the project? And what does that rush fee look like? Is it time and a half? Is it double the amount of the original estimate? What does that look like? What happens if a client continues to add all sorts of things to the project that you did not have figured into your estimate? We call that scope creep, right? What happens? What is your policy? What is your procedure on that? Do you say, whoa, client, I am happy to do that for you, but I have got to let you know that wasn't included in the original estimate. If you'd like those things included, I'm happy to provide a new revised estimate for you. Okay, they need to understand that they can't ask for more for the same price. Okay, what happens if your client wants to call you or tries to schedule a meeting or asks you to work after hours, overnight, over a weekend, or over a holiday? What do?
You add a rush charge.
You add a rush charge, absolutely. And you can always say no. Like, let's say somebody wants me to do something over the weekend, but I've got a jam-packed weekend in non-pandemic times. Right now, I've got all the time in the world, right? But in non-pandemic times, let's say I'm going out of town for the weekend and I don't want to be working on their stuff because, you know, it was their fault. They didn't get it to me in time and now it's rushed. I can say no. I can offer a referral. That makes me a hero. You always want to be the hero, right? You can totally do that. But you get to decide when you work, not them. Just because you work from home doesn't mean you work 24/7. Train yourself, train your clients. Okay, you don't have to do that. If you do, you have every right in the world to charge that rush fee. Absolutely. Anything. My personal policy is time and a half for same day, overnight, over a weekend, or over a holiday. All right. Now, I have, my family is of a different religion than mainstream, and my holidays may be different than others. You know, there's a few throughout the year that definitely affect me. That doesn't mean that I still can't charge my rush fees on those days just because you don't celebrate that. That's not my problem, right? You're still asking me to be away from family, be away from, our culture, our customs, whatever the case may be. Okay, so I'm going to charge rush if you want me to do that. Or I say no if I don't want to do that. And that's okay. What happens?
Julie,
Yes.
sorry, we have another question. Can you explain the time and a half policy?
Sure. So in my world, a lot of people charge by the hour. It's an hourly rate. Okay, so for easy math, let's say I charge $100 an hour and somebody wants me to do this rush project. Well, then I'm going to charge $150 an hour. That's time and a half. If you have a project rate instead, which is what I'm leaning more towards nowadays, where I give the client just, here's how much I think your estimate's gonna, or how much your project's gonna cost. I give them an estimate for, let's say it's $500. And then they want me to do this rush fee. Well, they don't know that I'm looking at the estimate. When I put together a project rate, I'm thinking how many hours it's gonna take me. I'm totally doing that. I'm just not telling them that because they don't need to know, right? So I give them a project fee. And if I do that time and a half policy, it's basically just a project and a half, the estimate and a half. So instead of 500, it would then be 750. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Abigail. Appreciate that. Okay. So has anybody had this ever happen before where a client just completely ghosts you, where they go dark and they stop communicating with you? What is up with that? I don't understand this concept, but it does happen every so often. Like nowadays in COVID times, I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt because we don't know what's going on in their personal lives, right? We don't know, God forbid, they could be in the hospital on a vent right now. And we may be like, I'm so mad you're not responding. Why aren't you responding to me? Typing up these emails. You can't do that, right? And I try and be empathetic during all times, whether we're in a pandemic or not. They might have some serious personal tragedy going on, but you can still be professional and you can follow up with them in a regular manner and fashion. And, just say, hey, listen, I hope everything's okay going on your end. I'm really concerned. But at the end of the day, if I don't hear anything back from you, I can't move forward on this project. So we're either going to have to kill it or put it on hold. And by the way, you owe me for my time spent on that already, or you owe me a chunk of the project estimate, whatever it is, because you put time into it already. This happens, unfortunately. I don't know why. It's not that hard to simply respond and be like, I'm really busy. Let me get back to you, whatever. But it does happen. Okay, so think about how you're going to handle that situation. What happens if a client is late in paying you? Do you send an invoice? Like if you have a 30-day policy, turnaround policy, do you send an invoice on day 31, a past due invoice? And do you add a late fee? Did you know in Kansas and Missouri, you are actually, I think it's nationwide, you are legally entitled to charge a late fee. Now, that late fee percentage is not very much. It's 1.5%. That's it. But still, it's something. It's a little bit of interest that you can add on top, and it's a penalty for them. No different than a credit card bill, no different than a utility bill charging late fees. You can too, but only 1.5% every 30 days. Okay, so are you going to send that past due invoice on day 31, or are you going to give them some wiggle room and wait till like day 35? Okay, maybe you just send if you don't like late fees, maybe you just send a simple reminder and say, hey, I'm sure this got lost somewhere in your email, but that invoice is now past due. That's okay. You can do that too. I always think it's funny when clients come back to me and be like, I don't like your late fees. And I'm like, well, that's nice. I don't like you being late. There's a simple solution here. Pay on time.
I just have a comment. One little, you talk about being good at what you do, but not knowing anything about business. I've learned that there's a difference between paying you in 30 days and net 30, which isn't necessarily paying you in 30 days.
Where they would cut the check on the 30th day and then mail it to you. Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize that. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should educate myself about these accounting things because, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Great point. Find out if you can have that conversation up front, you'll be better off. Like if I am talking to a brand new client and I tell them, I was like, all right, I've got a 30-day turnaround policy on invoices. Does that work with you and your company? Sometimes they may say, well, actually our accounting department does 45 days. Is that okay? See, we have that conversation up front. It's uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie, but I still do it because if they tell me in advance, then I'm less likely to get upset about it when it comes past 30 days, right? And I can wait the 45 days. That's okay. As long as I know I'm getting paid, I'm happy. And I have it in writing, right? Okay.
I have a
Yes.
quick question, sorry. Do you typically, when you have a new client, do you find that most of them want to negotiate a lower price? In other words, my question is like in our industry, I tend to want to start with a high number because 99% of the time, at least with an agency, direct clients, not so much, they want to pay me less. And so there's always a negotiation. So I got a plan that if I want to get paid $60 an hour, they're going to ask for 30, let's say for argument's sake, and we might end up at 45. Well, that's not what I wanted to get paid.
Right. That's a good point. So let me clarify. When you say agency, are you referring to like a headhunter, somebody who brings you the work?
In interpreting, agencies are businesses that clients like a big company might go to get them an interpreter. And so they in turn contract independent contractors. And so they're a middle person.
Got it.
And so they have to make money too. And so if you work for agencies, you're gonna make less as an interpreter.
Yeah, that is common in my field as well. We call them headhunters. There's different recruiters, headhunters who also divvy up the freelance work to people like myself. It is common for them to ask you to cut your rate, and it is common for them to take a cut, of course, because they are doing the legwork for you. So that's common. I've also found if I need to go work on site with a company for any period of time, or if they want to give me some guaranteed work, like we guarantee we're going to give you 30 hours a week worth of work, then they ask for a discount. That all seems to be commonplace. The way to get around that is to find your own clients and charge what you want, quite honestly. So great question. Great question. Okay. So we talk about what happens if a client is late in paying you. Do you add those late fees? If so, how much and how often, right? And then what happens if they don't pay at all? What happens if, like she said before, it goes from 1 month to 3 months to 6 months to a year and you're not getting paid, right? What do you do? Do you turn it over to collections? Do you go to small claims court, depending on how much it is? Or do you get an attorney involved? You've got to think all of these things through ahead of time so you're prepared and so you can be proactive about it and list them in your contract. Or maybe you have a working with me document or a page on your website where you can list these policies.
Hey, Julie, I have a quick question. At what stage would you have this conversation with your client about all your different policies? Is this like in the discovery, like the first conversation that you're having with them? Or is it like after you've had a conversation, you follow up with paperwork, that kind of thing? Could you just explain that a little?
Yeah, great question. So if the first meeting is kind of an interview, they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them to make sure it's a right fit, that's not when I would bring it up unless they ask, how do you work? Then that's a different story. But once they've decided to hire you and you go in and you have that first meeting with them or that first discovery call with them, and then you go back to your office and you put together your estimate, your contract, your request for deposit, all of those things, that's when I would do the conversation. That's when I would have it. So yeah, you're welcome. Not right up front, but once you've already had that relationship established and they've already agreed to do the project. So yeah, great question. So you really never know if and when any of those scenarios are going to happen. So it's best to be prepared. It's best to have some sort of game plan, excuse me, of how you'll handle each and every single one of these for if and when they do happen. You want to write them down so you don't forget. You want to make sure you adhere to your policies, and so therefore your clients will adhere to your policies, right? Additionally, I mentioned crafting a working with me document. You may also call it what to expect. or what to expect when working with me. You could put them together. Some sort of document to share some of those policies with your clients. You could put it on your website, like maybe it's a hidden page that you give a client access to. You could put it in an email, or you can include it when you send over your contract or estimate. Okay. But all of these things will help you in being proactive to ensure that these things don't necessarily happen. Okay. And if they do happen, what is going to happen? So many happens. What's going to happen if those things do occur? Okay. So what I want to do now here, before we go to break, is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hang on, let me find that thing. Where is it? And I'm going to give you a worksheet to work on. Oh, there it is. Stop share. Okay. I'm going to give you a little worksheet to work on, and we'll take this into break. Let me put this in the chat for you. Here it comes. I left it in Word so you can use this file. And let me pull it up on my screen so I can show you. Here it is. All right, everybody got that? It's come through, yep, okay. So basically what I want you to do is to take the next few minutes and look over this and start putting your policies in place, okay? What does this look like to you? What are your office hours that you're going to set for your business? When are you going to work? What days, what times? Okay. How much are you going to charge, or how are you going to charge? Is it hourly, project-based, by retainer, what have you? What additional fees might you consider? Okay. What discounts might you offer? Right? Family, friends, nonprofit, on-site guaranteed work, agency work, whatever you want to call it. Okay. What are your payment terms? Will you request a deposit? If so, how much? In my industry, we charge, it's either 50% of the estimate up front, or you could do milestone billing and do a third up front. Okay, if you're interested in that, how will you bill? When is payment due? That's a biggie. And then contracts. Will you have your clients sign a contract? And is it all new clients, or is it all of your clients for every single project, or is it just for new clients? Okay, so take a few minutes to start working on this. This is perfect timing here because I was actually planning a break for 10:30. Let's recoup here at, let's say about 10:40. Okay, give you time to work on this worksheet. Go refresh your drink, go to the restroom, whatever you need to be. And at 10:40, we'll reconvene here. Okay, sound good? All right, good luck with that policy worksheet. I'll see you in a bit.
Where was the document? Where is the document that you were showing? Is that going to be in my email? Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I put it in the chat. Are you able to get to the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's in chat.
Yes, there's a word. Yep.
Okay.
All right, it's 10:40. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone had a chance to refill their drink. Wait, is my video not working? No, what happened? Wait a second. I was just here. Where'd I go? Well,
Weird.
well, there's my picture. Start video. I am here. I promise you that. That's not working. I do have backup if I can't figure this out. Hold on. Whoop.
Welcome to the club.
All right. Well,
Can you try turning off your video? Because it looks like it's on, but it doesn't think it is. And then maybe turn it back on.
I tried that. Stop video.
Okay.
This is a new one for me.
Here, let me try this.
Start my video. No.
Can you unplug and replug in your camera? I've had to do that before.
I did that.
Okay.
I did that. Can I leave and come back?
Yeah, give that a shot.
All right, let me try. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere, you guys. We still have second half of this presentation. I'll be right back.
All righty.
There I am.
Yay!
Yay.
Hallelujah.
Alrighty then. Okay, well, glad I got that to work. That was random. Okay, so let's get back on track here. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that policies worksheet that I sent over? Any thoughts? Did you like it? Yes, good.
Self-explanatory.
I have one brief comment before we start. Since it's about rates, we belong to the American Translators Association, and there is a policy for various reasons that we cannot discuss monetary amounts. We can talk about what, how we bill, how we charge, etc. But I would like to ask the participants to refrain from saying what they charge or what we should charge. But as far as billing procedures are concerned, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. In fact, we have so much to cover that basically I just wanted you all to have that information, and so you could wrap your mind around it. You don't need to share your rates or your policies or anything. It's not a problem. So yeah, not a problem. All right.
I do have a question. What do you mean by guaranteed work?
Okay, so like if a client, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, if a client comes to me and says, I have 30 hours a week guaranteed for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. But be careful with stuff like that, because I've had clients say that, and then it doesn't end up anywhere near 30 hours worth of work per week. And it's really frustrating because it's like, I gave you a discount because you guaranteed me that. And it's like, now I'm at 5 hours and I gave you a discount. So
that happens a lot with translators. You are promised a certain volume of work. It's less by the hour, it's more per word. Let's say a gazillion words per month or per year. Would you give us a discount? And it's always my thinking is if I work more, I shouldn't be paid less. So it's a personal decision, but if you give the discount, then you probably never get the work anyway.
Yeah, good point.
I think it's smart to say, okay, I'll take the discount, but only if that happens. Not a discount on everything just because you're promising so much work.
Right. Good point.
But maybe they're not willing to do that.
I have a couple of clients as well that I'm on retainer with as well. So they pay me whether they send the work or not. So that's another thing to think about.
Great. All right, I'm trying to get you all set back up here. Any other thoughts before we jump into I'm trying to get you in gallery view. There you are. Now I can see you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you talk a little bit about the ethical part of competition amongst interpreters? Or some people say if you're charging too low, you're lowering the perception of our job or things like that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mentioned that before. There are these platforms online like Fiverr or Upwork where you can go and find a freelancer. And personally, I feel like those devalue the profession. I think that's probably the phrase.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, they do. And that's my personal opinion. Now I realize we're competing with people overseas sometimes, and sometimes in these other countries, they can afford to charge much lower rates because their cost of living isn't anywhere near ours. And that's fine, good for them. But, there might be a difference in quality, especially with what I do as a copywriter. If English isn't their first language, it might be a little bit different in what they end up getting for the price point. But yeah, I've seen some people on there who are charging $8 an hour, and I can't compete with that, nor do I want to. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can make more money working at Target or Starbucks or something, so yes, know your worth. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on here, let's start with branding and promotions. Now, this is definitely in my wheelhouse. I love talking about branding and promotions. And it's kind of funny because I'm not a graphic designer at all, but I get told by designers all the time that I do my branding so much better than them or anybody else they know. So one of the biggest things is that you have got to put yourself out there. And I know that it's difficult, but you've got to be bold in this regard, because if you don't put yourself out there, how will anybody else know who you are and what you do, right? So there's a fine line of, being arrogant or salesy, and also being promotional and, just basically getting the word out about your business. So let's start with talking about what a brand is. Okay. So your brand, most people will think, oh, you just mean my logo, right? No, I mean so much more than your logo. In its whole essence, a brand is how people feel about you when you are not in the room. How people feel about you, your work, your company when you're not around. What's your reputation? All right. Now, there are certain things that can lead up to that and help build that up, such as your logo, your company name. Maybe it's the colors that you use, the fonts that you choose, a theme, if you will. Like I've got a rock star theme. If you have a tagline or slogan, and then of course your tone of voice. All of these things play into your brand, and you want to make sure that you have them perfectly established and that you are showcasing them in everything that you do. Okay, so how do you go about determining your brand? Well, the first thing that you're going to want to decide on is what is called your USP. USP stands for your unique selling proposition, or you might hear it as unique selling point. This is marketing speak for you. And basically your USP is what makes you different / better than your competition. What's your differentiator? Okay, you want to determine what this is and highlight this throughout everything you do. All your branding materials, all your promotional materials, it better come across. So for example, I might ask a client the same question because I work in marketing. Okay, client, Joe Blow, whatever your name is, tell me, what is it that makes you unique? And Joe comes back and he says, oh, Julie, we have the best customer service. We have the best customer service in town. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But you know what? Sally Mae over here can say the exact same thing. So you want to dig deep, dig really, really deep. What is it that makes you have the best customer service? Do you have somebody answering the phone 24/7? What is it that makes you unique? Maybe Sally's company doesn't answer the phone 24/7 or have staff, to do that, or a call service. Okay. What is it that makes you unique? Do you work in your world, is it a particular language? that not many people around work in? Okay. Do you work in a different medium? Like, do you only translate for websites? Okay. What is it that you do that's different? It doesn't even have to be work related. For example, my USP is my personality. People know that they are going to have a fun time working with me. That's what makes me unique and different. Okay, so let's take a minute here. I want everybody to get out that piece of paper again and try and think about your USP. What makes you different / better than your competition? Then I'm going to ask here if anybody wants to share. What makes you different / better than your competition? Do you do something unique? Do you have a particular style, working style? Are you the fastest one around to do translation services or interpretation services?
I can go if you want.
Anyone want to share?
Sure. I can
Go
share.
for it.
Okay, I think that what sets me aside, not from everybody, of course, because a lot of my colleagues, have taken their interpreting skills to the next level, and I really like that. And every time I contract a colleague to work with me, I always urge them to, if they can, get a degree. I think it is very important, and I cannot stress that enough. And I explain to my clients also that in this country, in the United States, interpreting is still really perceived as a hobby, as like, if you're just bilingual, yeah, you can interpret. It's not a big deal. No, it's a very big deal, actually. It's a very tough job. It's a career, and it's a career choice. Like when I started being an interpreter, 13 years ago, I understood what I was getting myself into. I am married to my career. I study every single day. I interpret every single day. So I tell all my contractors, if you're not studying and interpreting every day, maybe you need to rethink this, because this is an exercise for your brain and your ears, and it's very tasking mentally. This is not something you can take a break from and just jump right in and be like, oh, I got this. And I also tell them, you will never, ever know everything. There will never be a moment in your life that you're like, I know everything. I am good. Put me anywhere. I got this. No, I study for every conference. I have a million glossaries that I share with all my contractors. So I think what distinguishes me from the rest is my education, is the fact that I took it seriously. I went and got a master's in Spain, in both French and Spanish, and I would combine Arabic, because I also have the language combination that I have is very special, and there are not a lot of interpreters who do Arabic and a Romance language. So I think education is very important, and I wish every interpreter would consider getting a degree in it, because not only does it give you all the tools necessary, know how to interpret properly, but it also gives you the confidence. There's a huge difference. When I get contracted for a conference and they say, do you hold a master's? And I say, yes, and it feels great. They don't doubt me. They don't. Well, if I send a contractor who doesn't, I've had resumes returned, and they said, I'm sorry, we cannot go with this one because they don't have a master's. And for conferences, I think it should be mandatory. It is very important, because outside the States, this is a career that you have to have a degree for, and they have unions that protects their interpreters. We don't. We are still trying to explain to everybody and educate everyone. I feel like on top of that, I'm an educator. I have to explain what I do every single day. That, this is a career, this is a job, this is not a hobby that I do on the weekends. So I think, I want to urge all my colleagues, everyone, please continue taking, there are lots of classes online. If you don't want to do the degree, please take those workshops, attend everything you can. And with COVID now, everything is online. You don't have to go anywhere. You need to brush up on those skills, because this is something that you have to be able to do on a daily basis. And you need to take it seriously to be the best.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's fantastic. And hey, that reminds me, if any of you all translate for Spanish, please let me know. I get requests all the time, simply with the last name of Cortez. So if y'all can shoot me an email, I'll give my information here at the end. I would love to have your names and be able to refer you.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I believe that this is a field where you just cannot rest and just simply say, okay, I'm fine, I'm doing okay. It's just like playing tennis. If you don't practice every day, you will lose the game. So I am practicing every day. Also, I consider that I have 15 years of experience, which counts. I studied higher education in my country of origin and also in the United States. That is a tremendous help. And I read tons of books. I don't care what the field is, but that also helps you a lot. And also read books on tape. I'm hardly listening to music. Whenever I'm driving, I'm always learning something, or I'm interpreting also from English to Spanish or Spanish English. All of that makes a big difference. But what is I consider very important is how friendly you are. You make the people feel at ease, and that's what I do.
Oh, I love that.
Because many people don't know how good is my Spanish or but they hear my English, and it's okay. But I do the best job I can do without, of course, not doing any boo-boos that you should not be doing, according to the rules of interpretation. So yeah, I consider that what the whoever talked before me said, it's very true. It's very true.
Very good. Thank you guys for sharing. That's super insightful. So think about your brand and think about this USP and how you can integrate it into everything that you do. I'm talking everything from your business card to your website, your social media pages. Think even your email address. So many freelancers and solopreneurs have just a simple @gmail.com address. Brand that sucker. Whatever your website domain is, put that at the end of your email. And you can Google how to do that, but take advantage of that opportunity to brand your email address. Brand anything and everything that you can, and make sure that things are consistent in everything that you do. You're probably noticing on these slides here, there's pink and purple everywhere, right? There's pink behind me, there's a purple cup. You see my logo on every slide. Okay, start thinking about what you can brand. Is it colors? Is it your logo? Some people have branded merchandise, right? Like cups or pins or coasters. You may dress in your brand colors. You may put your colors in your hair, right? I do have purple. It's just kind of tucked in back there. Okay, I'm not saying you all have to go out and dye your hair, but it's something you could do. Colors of business supplies. Like I've got this pad folio here is purple. My laptop cover or case is like a purpley pink. Think about that. Now, I'm one of those who goes above and beyond when it comes to my brand, and basically everything's branded. Even my license plate is branded. It says Copy Diva on there. But you know what? People remember it. People don't forget me. I stand out. Okay, and I want the same for you. So think about that with your branding. Okay, so now you've got your brand established, you've got your logo, your company name, your theme, your tagline, your colors, what have you, then you can move on to doing some simple promotions, such as advertising and marketing. Now, when we talk advertising in the traditional sense, of course, there are so many different things you can do, right? You can have a website. I think that's an absolute must, to have some sort of online presence where people can learn more about you. You could go old school and you could purchase print ads in newspapers or magazines. You could do a direct mail campaign. Direct mail is essentially things that you send through snail mail. It could be a letter, it could be a postcard, whatever it is that you want to do. You could do emails. You could collect a list of your current clients, prospective clients, and maybe you send out a newsletter once a month. Okay. Now, depending on what your specialty is or who you're trying to target, you could spend a lot of money on advertising. You could do a radio commercial, a TV commercial, or you could produce a video by yourself and put it on YouTube, share it through social media. You could do flyers, you could do posters, exhibit in trade shows in non-pandemic times, although I know some trade shows are still happening in the virtual world. Try as we might to have some sort of normalcy. Okay. There's so many things that you can do. Some cost a lot of money, some don't cost anything. All right. So the idea here is to figure out, where is your target audience? Who are you trying to target? Figure out who that is, like what they look like. Let's create a persona for them. Let's say you want to work with a corporation and you're not going through an agency. Okay, you want to work for H&R Block and you want to do translation services for them. And you know that the person who's in charge of hiring for that particular role is a 45-year-old woman named Kelly, because you've done your research, right? You've gone and scoped this out, who that is. 45-year-old woman, is she married? Does she have kids? You want to start creating a persona for who your target is. And I'm not just saying Kelly at the H&R Block. I mean, this could be the same at any other corporation too. But try and get an average. Are they male? Are they female? Are they well educated? Are they not? What kind of car do they drive? What's important to them? What are their interests? What do they like to do on the weekends? What do they read? What do they watch? If you know, for example, that your target audience subscribes to the Kansas City Star, maybe you found something on their LinkedIn page that they reposted from the Star, so you know they're a Star subscriber. Maybe you place an ad in the digital version of the Kansas City Star. Try and think about this. Maybe Kelly here is a member of a particular professional organization, or maybe she's a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Can you put an email ad, an HTML ad together in their monthly newsletter? Could you buy banner ad space on the Chamber's website? Where does your target audience hang out? That's where you want to promote yourself. Okay. What other ideas do you have when it comes to advertising and marketing? What have you guys done before or thought about doing?
I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize, but I want to share experience that may help some of my colleagues.
Sure.
Sometimes I have a background in business, and unfortunately, it's not just a matter of saying, okay, I'll advertise. I do it. I use different types of advertisement and everything. You have to think about the product and service. Can you provide, if there's a great demand of your services, will you be able to provide? Because as interpreters, it's just basically us, or probably a couple of people that we associate with, that we can do the jobs that we for the clients that we advertise. I made that mistake at first, and guess what? A lot of people call me, and then they will say, "Do you have time? Can you interpret for me at this time?" I said, "No, I'm busy at this time. I'm not busy." So they call a couple of times, and they didn't call me anymore. So you have to really think about what you're gonna be able to offer. the product that you are or the service that you are offering, you know.
That's an excellent point. You know, I find sometimes I do get too busy, yet I always try and still be the hero and save the project. So one of my fiercest competitors is also a really good friend of mine. We have very, very similar styles in writing. That's why I call him my biggest competitor. But if that happens to me and I'm just heads down and I've got no time, no availability on my plate at all to take on a new project, I'll outsource to him and the client doesn't know any different. And I just facilitate that. So he'll do the work, I review it before I turn it in, and then I turn it into the client, but I end up paying him. So the client pays me and then I pay him, and they don't know I'm still a hero. So consider that if that's something that you might be able to do in your businesses. But yeah, you know, you still have to put yourself out there through some sort of advertising and marketing. And one of the easiest ways to do that is through social media and PR. All right. I want to talk about social media for a bit because it's so easy to use and it's free unless you buy a sponsored post or an ad. All right. So you want to set up your profiles and have them look the same. You want to have the same brand across all platforms. Now, what platforms do you use? Again, what do you feel most comfortable with and where do your clients or your target audience hang out? Okay. I would say the top 4 right now for business would be LinkedIn, of course, Facebook business, the business page, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, I know there are all sorts of other ones popping up. There's TikTok, there's Clubhouse, there's whatever, you know, there's so many, it changes by the day. I can't keep up. You don't have to be on every single one. Select a few or a couple and do them well. Yet I feel like you need to have some sort of presence. Even if you're the type of person who hates social media, I still feel like your business has to have some sort of presence on there. People are going to be looking for you. And if they can't find out any information about you easily, then it's going to raise some eyebrows. Okay. So let's look at your brand here and how you can keep it consistent across the way. Now I'm going to share my pages here so you can see what I'm looking at. Let's go here. I'm going to start with LinkedIn. Okay, so you see you can brand this cover photo that you have up here. You put your logo on it, you put your contact information on it, but take advantage of this space. That's prime real estate right there. Okay, put your logo on it. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is on LinkedIn, you can customize your link. So more often than not, this will say linkedin.com/in/Julie Cortés and then have like 5 different jumbled numbers or letters. Okay, you can customize that. So I've customized it to be Casey Copy Diva, which is the same handle that I use on every single platform. It's the same. And the way you can do that is if you go over here, if you go over here, see where it says edit public profile and URL, boom. That's where you do it. Okay, right up here. You can edit that. Super easy. Okay, so I'm going to challenge each of you to get a custom link and get a branded cover photo for LinkedIn. Now, if we move over to, here's Facebook, my Facebook business page, you see, looks very similar. Same look and feel, same color scheme, doesn't have to be the exact same picture. I tend to use that same one a lot. Okay, I'm also a coach, so my face is front and center a lot, but yours may not be, and it doesn't have to be. It could be your logo. Okay, it could be whatever it is that you want up here, but take advantage of it. This is Twitter, and notice my icon is my logo, my avatar. You could use your own headshot here and have just your logo up here. You could totally do that. We move over to Instagram. Now there's no cover photo on here, but you can still have a branded headshot or a logo here. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with stories and how you can highlight stories. So when you do, you can save stories, which is great. These are your these are your saved highlights down here, and you can customize the cover photo on each one. So I have different ones here going across, all in my brand color scheme. Okay, see how I do that? On Instagram, if you're using it, of course, they're not very link friendly in the post. No links are live in post. So you're usually directing people back to your profile. You say link and profile, and you can put your website right here. Or if you're somebody like me who is constantly changing out that link and doing different posts like, hey, come join me at the MICATA Conference, you know, the link is in my bio. And I have several links in my bio because I'm posting regularly. So you can use a free service such as Linktree, and it will take you where you can have several links. And this is good both on desktop and on mobile. You can choose your own colors in the free version. Now, of course, you can buy their pro version and you can use your own custom colors. Like I would probably go with a more magenta pink, but it's a really handy tool that I love. So think about doing something like that, but just again, notice the branding. And even in your posts, you'll see there's a lot of pink and purple on here. Okay. It's all branded. Okay, throughout that. And same goes if you have like a YouTube channel, there's a cover photo space here as well. And you can use your logo or a headshot as your avatar. Think about how you can brand your stuff across all of the mediums. Any questions on branding for social media?
Could you show me again one more time how you get to that Instagram page to put your tools? I'm so sorry. I was fixing the LinkedIn and I did it. Thank you for that. So I missed it.
Okay, I'm sorry. With Instagram, with what? With the link, the special link?
Yes. How did you get to this page right here? Yes.
How did I get to this page? Whoops. Yeah. It was just hit. Go back. Go back. Okay, so I know Instagram is more mobile than it is desktop, but you can still access it through your desktop. So it's instagram.com/whatever your handle is. Okay. And then from there, you can make all sorts of adjustments. Hit this little settings cog here, and then you can adjust this. Now, of course, you're limited in space, right? So I've had to do some abbreviations here. You can use emojis. You don't have to. That's just part of my fun personality that, you know, is my USP that I'm trying to show here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments on that? No? Okay. So let me go back and share my part.
I wrote it, but I don't know if you saw it. Do you have any help like handling all your social media, your PR and all of that? Because I use social media, but I find that it can be very time consuming too.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a little overwhelming. That's an excellent question. So for the longest time, I did it all myself. But as my business began to grow and I found myself posting every day, I did have to outsource. So I actually hired a gal who's a former student of mine from the Art Institute. And she's been helping me she's a designer too. So she can design the post for me. And then she has access to a scheduling tool. So she can go and schedule posts in advance and I can just go and review and make sure everything looks good before she gets them live. But it's one of those things, and I'm going to keep repeating this message over and over again, is that you've got to spend money to make money. I know it's hard when you're self-employed. I know it's difficult when you don't know when your next paycheck is coming in, but self-promotion is essential, and I highly recommend budgeting for it, even if that means getting a part-time job to supplement that. Okay, that's the only way you're going to grow. Okay, so when we're talking social media, it's not just enough to have a presence on the different platforms. You've got to be active on there. Like if you set up a Twitter profile and you haven't used it in 3 years, I much rather you just delete it. Because if I go and look you up and see that you haven't done anything in 3 years on Twitter, I'm going to be like, does this person even know what they're doing? Or are they good at what they do? You've got to be present. You've got to be active on there. Now, it's a huge time suck. It's a huge distractant. So again, it's one of those things you want to schedule into your day in small increments. Okay, because you do want to be responsive. If somebody comments on your post, you don't want to wait a full 24 hours or whatever to get back to them. Okay, so set whatever policy you have in place. I'm going to check social media every 2 hours, every 4 hours, whatever it is. Okay, but only for business. Leave the personal stuff to personal time. All right. So make sure you're consistent in everything that you do, but post regularly. Like these algorithms are crazy. And the more you post, the more they like to show your stuff. Okay, the more likely they are. I know Facebook business, like they really want you to pay to play. And I'm not going to pay for every single post. That's crazy. But let's say I have 1,000 followers on my Facebook business page. I'll put something out there and I go and I look at the analytics. They only showed it to 30 people. 30 people. I'm like, come on. If I throw $5 at the post and then maybe I'll hit 150 people. Okay. Yeah, it's so you kind of have to learn how to work the system. And a good way to do that is to be active. Again, set time aside to do this or hire it out, find somebody to help you with it. Engage with other people. Post regularly, engage with other people, like other people's posts, comment on their posts, contact them in the direct messages. Okay. If somebody comments on your post, great, respond to them. The more comments you have on your post will help move you up in the algorithm. Okay. Every single post, even if somebody says, good job, Julie. Okay. Don't just like it. Say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The more activity boosts you up in the algorithm. And also remember, don't just put out text. Okay. Think people are very visual creatures. So you want to give them something visual to look at, and it plays the algorithms. Pictures, GIFs, videos, anything like that will really boost up your ranking in the algorithm. Right now, especially Facebook and Instagram, they love, love, love video. Okay. So if you can share a native video, an original video, maybe it's just you talking for 30 seconds. Great. Try that. Or do a Facebook Live. They love those too. Or I think LinkedIn has lives now too. Try those things. There's so many different things you can do for cheap or for free. You could, of course, sponsor posts. You could buy ads, and they're cheap. They're really good. Facebook and Instagram, especially from what I understand, they're really good when it comes to targeting your audience. You know, from a consumer's point of view, it's creepy how much they know about us. From a marketer's point of view, it's outstanding. Okay, because they're going to show you exactly what it is that you want, and vice versa. They're going to get your posts in front of the people that you want when you tell them. On the PR front, there are several things you can do as well that don't cost any money, such as public speaking. You could teach workshops. You could host webinars. You could get interviewed for any sort of media, for TV, for maybe it's a news show or radio or a podcast. Okay, there's a lot you can do. And then when you do it, don't just do it, but also promote it ahead of time and then share it afterwards. Okay, so you have 3 opportunities to promote one interview: before, during, and after. You could do that. It's just a reason to get out there, put your name out there, let people know that you're doing something, position yourself as an expert in the field. All right. People want to work with experts. People want to work with people whom they deem successful. So give them that presence. You could enter award shows, depending on what it is that you do, contests. If you win, you could send press releases to the media and hope that they pick up your story. You could write articles on LinkedIn. You could put an article out in an email newsletter. You could write a blog and put it on your website. Again, these are easy and free things that you can do to help boost your reputation and get the word out about you and your business. What happens if you have a super happy client and they tell you that in an email? Oh, thank you so much, David. It was great working with you. You know, you really solved X, Y, and Z problems for me. Turn around and ask them right away, can I use that as a testimonial? Okay. You can take that testimonial and you can share it on different platforms, different social media platforms. You can put it in a graphic and share it on Instagram. There's a really handy tool that you can use if you're doing your own social media. It's called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. And again, they have a free basic version where you can design beautiful posts. They have all of these templates. You can customize with your own colors. You can plop your logo in there. It's really, really nice. Okay, that you can use those if you want to like take this testimonial and put it out on Instagram, for instance. Or you could turn around and say, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind words. Would you mind giving me a review? Facebook business pages take reviews. LinkedIn, you can get a recommendation or review on there. Ask them if they would go and do that. Ask them if you could use their testimonial on your website. Okay, think of all the different places you can do that. That's called social proof, right? Now you're looking like you're the expert in your field. Now you're looking like you're super successful. People want to work with people like that. Okay. What about volunteering? Whether it's for a professional organization, a feel-good charity, whether you serve on a committee or a board or as a leader, what have you. All of these different opportunities get you in front of different people. You could be rubbing elbows with movers and shakers and not even know it. Maybe you volunteer at Wayside Waves and you're helping them plan their annual get to talking. Boom. Instant connection right there. Okay. So think about volunteering. Think about serving on boards, serving on committees. If you can give a little bit of your time, you can reap so many rewards from it, because whether they can use you or not, maybe they'll refer you later on down the road. People like to work with people who are philanthropic. Okay. That means you're a good person in most cases, hopefully. Okay. But all of the above, again, you've got to spend money to make money. So budget for promos. Even if you're using social media, every once in a while, you're probably going to want to throw some money at an ad, at a boosted post. It doesn't have to be a lot. If I've got something kind of big going on, I may throw $5 at it. If it's really big, I may throw $20 at it. It doesn't have to cost a lot, but just set aside some money to do that, to budget for it. If design or writing or photography or social media is not in your wheelhouse, I highly, highly, highly recommend working with a professional, because there's nothing worse than bad advertising. And it can really do a number on your reputation. So know your strengths and weaknesses and outsource the rest. Surround yourself with smart, talented individuals who can help you you put your best foot forward. Okay. Now you're probably saying to me, okay, Julie, that's great. You know, one writer, and two, Abigail's a copywriter as well, right? So you know a couple writers now. What about design? What about photography? What about social media? What about PR? I can help you with that through this organization that I founded. Now, this is completely a free resource, and that's why I'm sharing this with you, because it's for you. It's for the community. If you need anybody to help you who's affordable as opposed to going to a big ad agency, come to the Freelance Exchange. Go to our website, fxfkc.com, and you can find, we have about 170 members, and you can look through our membership list. You can use the drop-down menu and look at if they're a graphic designer, an illustrator, photographer, social media pro, what have you. If they're self-employed in advertising and marketing, they're welcome to join our club. You can look at their profile. You can look at their portfolio samples and see if you like their style. And their contact information is right there for you. Right there. You can look at their LinkedIn profile if they have that linked up. You can look at their website. You can contact them through email or through their phone. Completely free. This is a service that we offer to the community. If you don't have time to search, send me an email. Tell me what you're looking for, and I'll post it like for our members. Say, I need a graphic designer to help me 5 hours a week to make my social media posts, or help me with my email newsletter or whatever. Okay, I'll push it out to our members and have them contact you instead. But I do recommend not just going with one person, or like, let's say you ask your friends for a recommendation I see this all the time on Facebook. I don't know if you all do too, but I'm in like different business groups. And inevitably I'll say, hey, I'm looking for a graphic designer. Who do you recommend? Here come 101 different responses, right? Oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. How do you choose? Oh, my best friend recommended Ricky. I'm going to go with Ricky. Well, you know what? Your best friend and you may have completely different styles. Okay, for example, my style is rather edgy. It's very conversational, but you may need something that's very corporate, very buttoned up. So you really want to do your homework. It's just like a job interview. You interview your freelancers, you interview the talent that you would outsource to. Look at their style, make sure you like it, make sure they're talented, all right? Talk to them too. They may have the most beautiful work in the world, but they're not very nice. You want to have a good working relationship with your freelancer. So take the time and do that extra added research up front to save yourself some headaches down the road. Okay, so, you know, this is really something that helps the local Kansas City economy. You get to shop local, buy local. You get to find somebody who fits your style, not just somebody who comes recommended, and then you can interview them on top of that to ensure everything fits, your working style, what have you. Okay, really great resource. I'm not biased. But you can use that for free. And again, if you don't have time to search, like maybe we have, I don't know for sure, but maybe we have 80 designers and you don't have time to search through all of them, simply send me an email and tell me what you're looking for and I'll post it so they can respond. I'm in an awkward position as the founder of a not-for-profit organization where I don't feel comfortable recommending people per se. Again, my style is probably different than yours, but how do I choose who the right person is, right? You've got to find the right person for you. Okay, any questions on that, on the Freelance Exchange? Everybody got that link copied down in case you need it later? Awesome. Okay, so one other thing that you can do when it comes to promotions is simply networking. It is one of those things, either you love it or you hate it. It's one of those evil necessities, if you consider it evil. Personally, I love it. As an extrovert, you know, I'm like, ooh, party time. I get to go meet new people. I don't see it as a chore, but some people do, and I understand that. Or if you're introverted, like, oh, I don't want to be around all those people. I get it. I get it. But let's talk about how it can help you and how best to utilize this platform to promote your business. So networking essentially is the exchange of ideas with like-minded people. We have to keep in mind that people like to work with those who they know, like, and trust. So how do you become that person? You got to have people know you. They've got to get to know you. Hopefully then they'll like you and they'll develop trust over time. I don't know about you, but I've been getting all sorts of DMs, direct messages on my LinkedIn profile from random people, whether we just connected or we haven't even connected. They start selling me immediately in the direct messages, instantly. I'm even getting it before we connect now. And I'm like, you really think I'm going to buy from you when you start selling to me? I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't trust you. Right? So remember that concept. People like to buy from those who they know, like, and trust. Be that person. Think about where could you go networking. Now, we're in strange times right now with the pandemic. I understand that, but a lot of organizations are still hosting networking events just online. And I understand it's a different dynamic, but it's still important to do, and it's still important to go. We talked about Chamber of Commerce. They have lots of stuff you could go to. And there are different chambers, you know, there's the Greater Kansas City Chamber, and then there's the Overland Park Chamber and the Liberty Chamber, right? There's all sorts of chambers. There are professional organizations. Okay. Where else might you suggest for your industry? Where might you suggest people go to network, or where have you gone before for events? Anybody?
I mean, one of the thing that comes to mind straight away is the ATA conference. It's our like national conference where, you know, normally over 1,000 translators and interpreters get together. And if I think looking back for my business, like it's that word of mouth networking that happens at events like that, or even like MICATA, you know, our conference is a great way to network with other people too. So
Perfect.
Yeah, anything like that
Yeah.
within our industry. But then also it's important to specialize and then be, at client side events.
Mm-hmm. I would say think too, again, where does your target audience hang out? Excuse me, what organizations are they part of? If, for example, you're targeting the ad agencies, and that's not a bad idea, y'all, they're going to need translation services as well. Okay, there's an advertising club of Kansas City. They have networking events. Could you go there? So you're networking directly with client types, with your prospective clients. Think about different opportunities like that. And even you could network online, different business groups on social media, or participate in different forums. There's so much that you could do just to have people start to get to know you, and you start to build your reputation, you build your brand. All right. Now let's say that you're going to an in-person networking event, and hopefully we'll be back there soon, sooner than later. What you want to bring with you is what I like to call, and it's kind of cheesy, but it works, what I like to call a networking toolkit. A networking toolkit. What goes into your networking toolkit? And you're thinking, well, duh, Julie, of course your business cards. Yes, of course your business cards. In fact, I recommend not only taking them to networking events, but having them on you everywhere you go, even if it's a personal or social event. You never would know when you're going to strike up a conversation with somebody, and that card's going to come in handy. So you'd be like, hey, feel free to pass along my card to anybody who needs this. Right? Take it to the dentist, take it to the gym, take it out dancing, I don't know, whatever. Always have your cards on you. Okay, but specifically for networking events, yes, take cards. You don't need to take 50 or 100 cards. This is more about quality connections than it is about quantity. Okay, so a handful of cards should be fine. You want to bring with you your elevator speech. Who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and we'll talk about that in detail in a minute. But you want to have that prepared. You want to ensure you have some sort of name tag. A lot of organizations will provide name tags for you, like, they'll do the Avery sticker labels and have a Sharpie. You could do that. You could have a name tag made, like Staples will do them. You can find them online at like Zazzle is one place that comes to mind, where you can get a custom one done with your own logo on it. That would be cool. Okay, definitely have some sort of identifier. Okay, and then here we go into more cheesy stuff. You want to have a firm handshake, but not too firm. I've had a couple of guys who have about crushed my hand, right? But have a firm handshake that shows you mean business. Okay, you want to establish eye contact with the other person. You want them to know that you are interested. And I know that's difficult, especially for people who are introverted. So try this trick. Instead of looking them in the eyes, try looking just a little bit above and see if that helps. Because I know you're like, oh, somebody's staring back at me. What are they thinking? And I know it's a little intimidating. So if that helps you, try that, because that will at least show that you're looking somewhere on their face, right? And you're interested. Come in with a smile. Don't sit there with a scowl on your face. Nobody's going to want to talk to a negative Nelly. So flash a smile every so often. And then last but not least, what you ought to bring in your toolkit, and you'll thank me for this later, is mints or gum. Think about how often we go to networking events and they have food or drink there, right? And maybe it's a little appetizer thing, buffet. And of course there's garlic and onions in it. Are you really gonna want to talk to somebody after that? You're gonna be so self-conscious. Or even coffee, we'll give you coffee breath. You're gonna be like hiding behind your little napkin. You're gonna be like, no, don't listen to me right now. My breath is horrible. So prepare for that. Bring some mints, bring some gum, and be prepared. Okay. That will certainly give you a little bit of boost to confidence so you can keep going and keep networking. Remember to have some sort of positive outlook. All right. If you go in thinking, man, what a drag, I don't want to be here, you're not going to have a good time. But if you go in and say, yes, this is going to be amazing for my business. I have a goal that I want to make 5 solid connections at this event over the 2 hours that are here, that I've got here. Okay, great. If you're introverted, cut yourself some slack. Maybe you're not there the whole 2 hours. That's okay. And maybe you don't meet 5 people. Maybe it's 3. It's still progress. That's still better than you were yesterday. Think about icebreakers, things that you could walk up to somebody with and just start a conversation with. You know, hey, how do you like that weather today? That storm yesterday was crazy. Or, gosh, the Royals are doing great, hopefully, right? What are some icebreakers that you could use? Have those prepared ahead of time if that's not natural for you. Maybe it's, hey, how did you hear about this conference? Or are you here alone? Hey, me too, right? So think about different things. But of course, when it comes to business events, professional events, there's all the do's and don'ts, what you can talk about and what you can't, you know, or what's kosher, right? I would very much, I would highly suggest you stay away from anything controversial, right? Religion, politics, sex, off the table. I would not bring that up. You know, most professional organizations, not a good idea. People are on
religion.
Religion, yeah, I included that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So just remember, it's not a numbers game. You want quality over quantity. And even though, of course, the main purpose is for you to go and try and drum up new business, if you go in with a different position, a different outlook of you're here to help others, you know, it's like selling through serving. You're here to help others. You want to be a benefit to other people. I think you're going to be better off. So the more you can listen than talk about yourself is probably going to be helpful. Now, remember, not everybody there is going to be your ideal client. Not everybody there is going to be in a position to give you work, and that's okay. You could still strike up a conversation. You could still form a relationship with somebody, and next thing you know, they're referring you to everybody that they know. So now you're looking for referral partners. Maybe you are finding that you're meeting vendors as well. It doesn't matter. Everybody who you put in your network can help you one way or another. If you tend to be shy, try taking a networking buddy with you. That will help. Okay, so maybe it's somebody who's a little bit more talkative than you. But whatever you do, after you establish a relationship with somebody, like follow up with them. You know, you exchange the business cards. How many of you go home and have like a stack of cards sitting on your desk that you like don't do anything with, right? People are notorious for doing this. Make sure you follow up. Add them to your LinkedIn network. If remember the old Rolodexes, if you have like some sort of filing system that you could file their card away, there's now card scanners that you can use and get their contact information into a database, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or a CRM tool, customer relationship tool, management tool, CRM is what that's called. Okay, you can add them to your email newsletter. There's so many different things you can do. If you talked about something in particular and you said, you know what, I have the perfect person for you. When I get back to my office, I'm going to send you their contact information. If you say something like that, follow up with them. Okay. You can always keep the relationship going. Somebody's got to start if you are really interested in this individual in a professional sense. Okay. What can you do? You can reach out on LinkedIn, send a note with your invitation, which I think you have to do through desktop. I don't think mobile. I think mobile just automatically sends it. But through desktop, it gives you the opportunity to actually include a note. Hey, Billy Bob, it was so great meeting you at the chamber after hours last week. I really enjoyed our conversation. Let's keep in touch. Okay, I'm reminding him where we met and keeping that relationship going. After that, maybe I see an article that comes across my feed that I think would be interested for Billy Bob. I'm going to send it to him. Hey, I saw this article and it made me think of you. Hope everything's going well in your world. Then maybe you want another touch point. You're like, hey, I really enjoyed getting to know you. I feel like we could chat for hours on end. You know, let's keep the conversation going. How about lunch next week? My treat. Now you're starting to work in relationship marketing. Okay. Again, people like to know with those whom they know, like, and trust. So become that person. All right. Follow up with them. If you connect on social media, engage with them on social media. Invite them to lunch, invite them to coffee, even if it's virtual right now, you can still do it, right? Zoom offers a free 40-minute version that you could do. You don't need more than 40 minutes for coffee. can totally do that. Okay, now let's talk about your elevator speech, because I think it's super important and so many people forget to craft one. But an elevator speech is essentially, it's a 30-second commercial. Think about the time that it would take for you to get into an elevator and ride to the top of a building. Okay, if somebody in the elevator says, hey, Julie, what do? You know what to say. You don't just say, hey, I'm a translator or I'm an interpreter. You want to tell the story. You want to grab their interest, and you want to hopefully, get some sort of call to action here. So there's some sort of action being taken, whether you're following up, you're exchanging business cards, what have you. It's a brief commercial about yourself delivered in ideally 30 seconds, no more than 60 seconds. But this simple yet powerful tool works on so many levels. When you try writing it out, aim for between 150 and 250 words, okay, when you type it out. It's just a simple way to answer the question when somebody asks you, what do you do, right? So I'm going to give an example, and then we're going to work on your own elevator speeches here. So mine is, hi, I'm Julie Cortés, copywriter by day, freelance rockstar by night. I write and proofread advertising and marketing materials to help companies take things to the next level. I'm the founder of the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City, a professional trade organization that caters to those who are self-employed in advertising and marketing, as well as to those who hire them. Since starting this organization, I now teach, speak, and coach all things freelance, helping my fellow creative freelancers and self-employed business owners succeed. If you happen to know of anybody who could use my services, please let me know. Okay, that's an elevator speech. I say who I am, what I do, who I work with, what makes me different. I make sure that appears somehow, some way in my elevator speech. And then there's a call to action at the end. Okay. Now, of course, when you go to deliver your elevator speech, it's totally going to depend on different factors. What the event is, who you're talking to, is it one person or is it a group, as well as how much time you have. Right? If you only have 5 seconds to get across, what it is that you do, then have a 5-second version prepared. If you have longer, then have your full version prepared. And you'll want to get it to a point where you've practiced it so much that it comes across natural. When you first write it, it's probably going to sound a bit formal. So I recommend talking it out loud, reading it out loud, right? As if you would, like you're speaking. And then you'll be able to put in some transition words in there and whatnot, and just make it flow, make it sound like it's natural. We don't always write like we speak. We speak in very short sentences, and we tend to break grammar rules a lot. That's okay for something like this. That's totally okay. So here's what I want to see you all do. I want to see you craft your own elevator speech. And the way to do this, I'm going to put this in the chat for you, is, let me stop sharing. Oh, it's on the other monitor. Oops, and now it just moved. Hold please. Technical difficulties. Okay, in the chat, there's a few ways to do this. Okay, you are going to start with an attention-grabbing hook. And then you're going to state who you are, what your title is, or your company name is. You'll describe what you do, who you do it for, or who your target audience is. Explain what's different about you. Remember that USP? What makes you different / better than your competition? And then at the very end is your call to action. That's the CTA, call to action. State what you want to happen next. All right, so let's take a couple minutes and start working on yours. And then I'm going to ask for, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to ask for one person to share. All right, let's take about 1 more minute. And then y'all can finish these up later. Okay, any volunteers? Wyman, you look like you're done, but you also look like you were shaking your head, like, don't call on me. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, no, I'm not done. I'm looking forward to ideas.
Oh, okay. Who's got some ideas? Even like with the attention grabbing hook, I think that would be really helpful.
I can go.
Sure, great. Thank you.
I kind of want to have eye contact, and so it's hard to read it out at the same time. I'm gonna put this over here, and then I'll do it like this. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, my name's Abigail Dahlberg. Some people call me Trash Girl. As a translator and copywriter, I help green companies in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland communicate with an international audience. I've got over 20 years of crafting copy that connects companies with their stakeholders in a meaningful way. I've also spent a lot of time on landfills. Let me know if I can help you take your communications to the next level, or something along those lines to finish it off.
Perfect. I love that. You totally had my attention. I was like, Trash Girl, what the heck is that? Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, hopefully that helps. And you guys have some examples now of elevator speeches. And I want you to continue working on this and craft this, practice it over and over and over again. Even look in the mirror. If that helps you, get it to a point where it feels natural. All right. That's your homework assignment from me to you. You're welcome. Professor Cortez in the house today. So if you have enjoyed what we have gone over today, I have a little gift for you. If you go to my, whoops, there's the elevator speech. You're welcome. All right. If you go to my website, at the bottom of the home page, I have a PDF that you can download for free of 7 tips on how to rock your solo business. All right, you can download this, you can put it up as a screensaver, you can print it out and have it as a reminder for you day in and day out to remind you how to continue to put your best foot forward so you have the best chances of success. All right, go to juliecortez.com. It's Cortez with an S. It's apparently the Spanish version and not the Mexican version. I learned things when I got married. And anyway, at the bottom of the homepage, you can find that. A little freebie from me to you. All right, so let's summarize what we've gone over today. We know that running a business can be intimidating, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So what I want you to do is to be bold. Okay, be bold, go get to know your stuff and be smart about things. Treat your business like a business, not like a hobby. It's not optional. All right, you've got to go to work each and every day. And when it comes to promotions, you've got to put yourself out there. All right. Again, if it's something that you're not comfortable doing, outsource it, because you've got to have some sort of online presence. You've got to get your name in front of people, and that's how you'll get more business. Create a stellar brand and promote yourself wisely and often. Okay. Number 2, what I want you all to do is to be brave. Take that chance and go for it. Yes, I understand pandemic times are really weird, but try and make the most of them. You know, what I have found, one of the silver linings of this whole thing is that I have been graced with the gift of time, quite honestly. Especially when the pandemic first hit, nobody was spending money on advertising. And so I had all this time on my hands. What could I do? Take advantage of it. I put together a speaker reel. I did this marketing project, that thing. I started writing a book. Like, there's so many different things you could do. Take advantage of the free time. Now, things definitely have picked back up, thankfully, but I don't have to commute anywhere. You know, like I said before, I live so far south that it takes me half an hour to get downtown. I'm saving so much time now. And so I'm taking advantage of that. You do the same. All right. And I know many think, all right, Julie, but what if I fail? What if I do the self-employment thing, but what if I fail? And I'm here to tell you, so what? At least you tried. And that's so much more than so many other people can say. And of course, right now, you can always blame it on the pandemic if you don't succeed, right? So be brave, go out there, change your mindset and flip the narrative. It's no longer, what if I fail? It's what if I succeed, right? Wouldn't that be great? That would be amazing. Last but not least, I want you to go off and be badass. Take advantage of all the networking opportunities that you can. Get motivated, stay motivated. Try those tips that we talked about earlier. Remember that attitude is everything. Be optimistic, visualize success. Use these tips to set yourself up for success and go after your dreams with full intention. That's how you will rock your solo business. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here's my contact information. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out. I'll put my email in the chat so you Spanish translators can come find me. Give me your. Thank you so much, Abigail. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very useful.
Thank you, Julie. It was a fantastic workshop.
Yay. Thank you. I love hearing that.
We learned a lot.
Thank you.
Good.